this series, we're going to deal with the formation of the Hebrew canon of scriptures. So these would have been the scriptures that the Jewish people would have used, and then therefore Christians would have adopted as their own scriptures as pointing to Jesus during the time, or after rather, Jesus. So there's a few myths involved in the formation of the Hebrew canon, and some of those myths persist till now, even the ones that have absolutely no relation at all to the Hebrew scriptures that we use. Just to give an example, the Hebrew text of scripture called the Tanakh is quite different from the Greek version, which is called the Septuagint. In fact, the Septuagint includes extra books, different lengths of readings of certain books. Jeremiah is shorter, Daniel's longer. There are all sorts of different versions of the Septuagint floating out there, but most from a Christian point of view understand the Septuagint as being the base text for what constitutes, from a Christian point of view, the Old Testament. But we're going to dig in to understand the formation of these documents and how they came to be canonized. And what I mean by canonized is that how did they come to be used as a rule and sort of locked in place? Like any writing that could be used for a sacred purpose, there is a time in which during the construction of that writing where there's still room for some movement on exactly how we organize it and such. For instance, the Gospel of Luke in the New Testament, Luke says that he looked at various sources to construct that document and to create the narrative. Well, after Luke is done, if you were 300 or 400 years into it, it's really difficult if you wanted to try to change that text, because the document is sacred in and of itself in the way that it is constructed. And so we're going to look at that aspect of the Hebrew scriptures. We can't dig into all the textual critical stuff in this particular series. We just are not going to have time. I'm trying to do sort of a survey on understanding how the canon came to be, not necessarily how each individual book came to be in the way that they are. However, there will be a little bit of overlap in some places, because we'll have to understand, that it can't be a canonical book before the book could have been written, right? And so we're going to talk about some of those issues and some of the issues that involve myths, like all the biblical canon, the Old Testament canon, was constructed in Babylon post-exile and then carried back with them. That's a persistent myth and from one end of the spectrum, and on the other end, it's sort of this almost magical idea of the way that the text came to be, and that Moses is packing around in the desert hundreds and hundreds of pages of scripture as he's writing a journal, and that's not really the case either. And so we're going to take a look at both of those things and try to understand it, from a rational point of view, from a historical point of view, as much as we can. And so if you're interested in that, follow along in this series.